celebrating 30 years of great music.
Good evening. In the news tonight, a Vincennes man is charged with torching a Knox County home, and President Bush, 3 former presidents, and thousands of others were on hand today for the funeral for Coretta Scott King.
In sports, the girls' high school basketball tournament kicks off tonight with a county showdown on tap between North and South Knox.
Newscenter 22 is next. A Vincennes Township volunteer firefighter is facing a charge of arson in connection with a house fire in Palmyra Township last month. 27-year-old Matthew Ryan Donaldson of 1639 Hillcrest Drive turned himself in at the Knox County Jail Monday. The arson charge was filed in Knox County Circuit Court. Fire Chief Tim Smith says he suspended Donaldson pending the outcome of his trial. Donaldson has been a volunteer firefighter for the past 13 years. Smith says the fire department is saddened by the event. Sheriff Luce would not say if there is a link between Donaldson and arson fires at the county-owned Hillcrest building and a business on Old Bruceville Road. He says those fires remain under investigation. Donaldson lives next to the Hillcrest building. 2 Vincennes women are facing drug charges following a traffic stop on Kimmel. 23-year-old Crystal Heldenmer and 23-year-old Jeanette Haycock are facing preliminary charges of reckless possession of paraphernalia, possession of marijuana, and possession of methamphetamine. During a search of the vehicle, police also found $1,900 in cash. State legislators are listening to new ways to fund local governments in Indiana. A Senate committee is taking testimony today on proposals that could allow local governments to use a mix of new taxes to reduce their reliance on property taxes. The issue went nowhere in the Republican-controlled House, and it's uncertain whether it will gain traction in the Senate. Governor Daniels and Indianapolis Mayor Bart Peterson say property taxes are no longer a sound measure of wealth. They're urging lawmakers to give local governments the flexibility to use income taxes, sales taxes, or other ways to pay for services. Peterson is the president of the Indiana Association of Cities and Towns, which is joining with Daniels to endorse new funding sources. State Representative Dave Crooks of Washington released the results of the annual survey this week. The 63rd District Democrat says about 1,800 people responded to the survey. Crooks says 80% of those who filled out the questionnaire opposed Governor Daniels' proposal to lease the Indiana toll road to foreign investors. Just over 70% were opposed to privatizing prisons, parks, and hospitals. Respondents were split 50-50 on Daniels' plan to turn the I-69 extension into a toll road. And Crooks says 80% won a statewide referendum to determine if Indiana should be on Central or Eastern Time. A newspaper poll finds that most Indiana parents want schools to include at least 3 hours of physical education per week for all students. The Indianapolis Star polled found that 92% of parents would like to see gym classes put more emphasis on exercising and staying fit, with 7% opposed. A total of 85% would favor requiring at least 3 hours of physical education per week for all students, while 14% were opposed. Indiana rules currently require 1 year of phys ed for high school students. The state recommends but does not require phys ed at other grade levels. The poll was part of a 3-day series by the Star examining the problem of overweight children. The Knox County Commissioners plan to vote March 6 on proposed revised zoning and subdivision control ordinances for the county. Bruceville, Decker, Oaktown, and Monroe City have approved the ordinances. Vincennes and Bicknell are still reading the fine print. If they don't act on ordinances by March 19th, it will be assumed they have approved of them. It has been 40 years since the ordinances were last updated. Good Samaritan Hospital in Vincennes will celebrate its 98th anniversary on Wednesday. From a 25-bed hospital staffed by 6 people in 1908, Good Samaritan today has grown into a 232-bed facility with 1,500 employees and an annual payroll of more than $51 million. During its 98 years, the hospital has undergone tremendous architectural growth. New wings were added to the original hospital building during the 1920s, and the memorial building was added in 1950. Construction of the landmark 7-story Columbian Towers was completed in 1971, bringing the number of patient beds to 250. The Health Pavilion, which houses the Women and Infant Center, Day Center, Endoscopy, as well as new medical library and Eva Hill Auditorium, opened in 1995. Members of the Mishawaka Common Council have voted among party lines to oppose leasing the Indiana Toll Road. The council voted 6-2 to approve the resolution. Democrat John Rogerman says there should be more public debate before the lease is signed. The Indiana House has already voted to approve Governor Daniels' plan to lease the road to Spanish-Australian Venture for 75 years in exchange for nearly $4 billion. The measure now is before the Senate. Vincennes University is creating a new degree program in mining technology. The new program comes as the coal mining industry expands in Indiana, and recent accidents in other states raise concerns about mine safety. Vincennes University Mining Program Director Ron Busey has been leading mine safety training programs under a new program that started in October. Last week, he traveled from Jasper to Elkhart and South Bend for the courses offered under a 5-year grant. Indiana has about 62,000 miners, digging stone, sand, and gravel, as well as coal. There are about 300 mines in state, with 35 of them coal mines. The South Knox School Corporation will dismiss classes 2.5 hours early Wednesday for staff development meetings. School lunches will be served. South Knox Elementary School will dismiss at 12:40 p.m., while the middle high school will dismiss at 12:50. Still to come on Newscenter 22, after a week of the tributes to the woman known as the First Lady of the Civil Rights Movement, Coretta Scott King was laid to rest today. And Denmark's Prime Minister is calling the protests over cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad a global crisis. Stay with us.
People just cannot imagine how they're going to put the country back together again.
In a world turned upside down, ordinary men and women would face an extraordinary task.
Nobody had scripted this moment. It was a greater challenge than the challenge of winning the war.
Reconstruction, the Second Civil War, on American Experience.
President Bush says the dignity of Coretta Scott King was a daily rebuke to the pettiness and cruelty of segregation. At her funeral service in a church outside Atlanta, Bush said Mrs. King left behind a better, more welcoming country. Bush was joined by 3 former presidents, his father, President Clinton, and President Carter. The funeral took place at a Baptist church where King's daughter Bernice is a minister. Police suspect a suicide bomber in an explosion at the police headquarters in the South Afghan city of Kandahar. The blast has killed at least 13 people and wounded 11 others. A senior officer at the scene says the bomber rode a motorbike straight into a guard post and there was an enormous explosion. The attack is the latest in a string of bombings in Kandahar, a former Taliban stronghold. The Taliban is claiming the responsibility. Muslims across Asia continue to vent their anger against Western newspaper cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. 3 protesters are dead after clashing into NATO troops in Maymana, Afghanistan. NATO peacemakers are rushing reinforcements to the remote town. Meanwhile, Denmark's Prime Minister is calling the protest over a cartoon a global crisis and is urging calm and steadiness. Outraged Muslim demonstrators have set fire to Danish embassies and are demanding an apology from the Danish government. But the Danish Prime Minister says Denmark's culture is a free press, which means government cannot apologize with what an independent newspaper does. The newspaper has apologized, but is defending the drawings as a legitimate exercise freedom of expression. An Alabama official says it's too soon to say whether there's a link between sets of fires of churches. Authorities say 4 Baptist churches were damaged overnight near the Mississippi state line, about 10 to 20 miles from each other. All were sparsely populated areas off rural roads, similar to 5 churches fires Friday south of Birmingham. A spokesperson for the agency said that overseas fire investigations says Alabama has had 59 church fires in the past 5 years. 19 of those fires were ruled arson. The Senate Judiciary Committee begins hearing today on the pros and cons of spying on American communication. Some say it's needed to track would-be terrorists. Others say it's a violation of civil liberties. But just how do potential terrorists communicate and how can they be stopped? That story from Kelly Wallace.
What did NSA get for us?
They intercepted a call to DEMA from an American.
Get out of town.
Problem is, we can't listen to it.
Says who?
Hollywood's take on super-sensitive spying by the National Security Agency on American citizens. A program so secret, no one in the know will talk about it. So, we had to rely on experts like Ira Winkler, a former NSA analyst turned computer security guru who wrote the book Spies Among Us: How to Stop Spies, Terrorists, Hackers, and Criminals You Don't Even Know You Encounter Every Day. Winkler says to avoid detection, bad guys might scramble data before it's transmitted.
Nice simple file like this. Looks like that.
Other ways would-be terrorists try to fly below the radar online, hiding data inside a picture, setting up free email accounts, numerous providers offer these, and using codes to communicate.
There's just so much data out there that it's almost impossible to find the right people that you're looking for just randomly.
Like Winkler, Rebecca Givner-Forbes spends her days monitoring the internet. She's an analyst with the Terrorism Research Center. Her specialty? Jihadist websites and chat rooms.
This particular discussion thread has an amateur aspiring jihadist asking for help with his explosives recipe.
She says it's hard to know if a posting is coming from inside or outside the United States.
The software that they use, these message forums, allows for private messaging between members through the website. So then they never even have to do so much as give out an email address.
I'm going to bounce this call through 9 different relay stations throughout the world and off 2 satellites.
Hackers in the movie Sneakers show just what the NSA may be up against when it comes to monitoring phone calls. Adding to the challenge, Winkler says terrorists taking advantage of disposable cell phones and specialized telephone cards that can't be easily traced.
I could walk into any store and buy a card like this, and then I could plug it into this phone that I bring with me all over the place, and that card is basically good anywhere in the world.
Find out where the phone was when it received the signal.
But as we see in E-Ring, NBC's drama set inside the Pentagon, surveillance is just one part of the mission. Figuring out what it all means may be even more difficult.
A judge in London has sentenced a radical Muslim cleric to 7 years in prison for inciting his followers to kill non-Muslims. Abu Hamza al-Masri was in Amman at London as a mosque attended by a terrorist suspect linked to the 9/11 attacks and shoe bomber Richard Reed. Embattled auto manufacturer General Motors is cutting back. In an effort to save money, GM is cutting shareholder dividends by half and reducing pay for its top officers. Chairman and CEO Rick Wagoner is taking a 50% pay cut. Wagoner outlined additional measures today at a news conference in Michigan.
Third, board members decided to reduce their own compensation by 50%. Fourth, our 3 vice chairmen, executive vice president, and I will cut our salaries for an undetermined period of time. 50% for me, 30% for our vice chairman, 10% for our executive vice president. In addition to these actions, we're also addressing our salaried pension plan. In order to provide a competitive and fair benefit to future salaried retirees but reduce financial risk to GM, We will substantially alter our pension plan for current employees.
GM's recently added board member Jerry York supports the cost-saving measures. He believes that the sense of shared sacrifice will help secure additional concessions from the United Auto Workers Union, which represents more than 100,000 GM employees. York is also the advisor to GM's largest individual shareholder, Kirk Kerkorian. A wildfire in Southern California has consumed about 3,500 acres of brush near the Orange County suburbs. Nearly 2,000 homes are under mandatory evacuation order. No residence damage has been reported so far. About 900 firefighters are on the scene. Officials say firefighters are making progress battling the fire, but they're warning of high Santa Ana winds and low humidity during the day. Like father, like son, Jack Carter, the son of former President Jimmy Carter, is entering politics for the first time. The Las Vegas investment consultant announced Monday he's running to represent Nevada in the U.S. Senate. His father and former First Lady Rosalind Carter were on hand for the announcement near Las Vegas. The Carters then flew to Carson City for a similar event. Jack Carter is the only Democrat in the race so far. Adventurer Steve Fawcett is still on the ground. A fuel leak kept him from taking off from Cape Canaveral, Florida this morning. He was hoping to break a 20-year record for the longest airplane flight, a record that currently stands nearly 27,000 miles. He's hoping to try later in the week. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Michael Nice has the latest in weather.
Ladies and gentlemen, who is America's best couple?
The best dancers in the land pull out all the stops. Watch them go head to head, toe to toe, and cheek to cheek.
Who won America's Best Challenge tonight, ladies and gentlemen?
In America's Ballroom Challenge, you won't want to miss a single step. Watch it on PBS.
Michael, do we expect these cold temperatures to stay around?
Well, unfortunately, Kristen, I do think that Mother Nature has brought winter back, at least for this week. Good evening, everybody. And as we take a look outside the tower cam, downtown Vincennes is under cloudy skies right now. Currently out at the airport, 35 degrees and cloudy skies. Winds west-northwest at 10 miles per hour. Wind chill at 28 degrees and the barometric pressure at 30.24 and rising. Currently around the viewing area, much of the Wabash Valley is under cloudy skies. French Lick, Indiana, 37 degrees. Patoka is at 37, and over across the river in Olney and Robinson, Olney is at 34 and Robinson at 39 degrees. And as we look at our national temperatures map, currently we can see this trend of colder temperatures continuing for much of the United States. Warm spot today down in Daytona, Florida was 74 degrees, and as we look over in the west coast, we can see Los Angeles out at 70 degrees, mild for them this time of year. Up in International Falls, Minnesota was 11 degrees. That was the coldest spot for the United States. We can see our jet stream pattern throughout this temperature map kind of defined, and that's what's causing these colder temperatures for this time of year. And on the national surface map, we can see that the high pressure system centered across the west coast is there to stay, and it's bringing clear and pleasant skies for much of the west coast. And then on the east coast, we can see Buffalo and upstate New York still have a little bit of that lake effect snow that's lingering around. It's coming to an end, though, in places around Buffalo experiencing as much as 3 feet of snow they're going to have to start to dig out from. Low pressure system down in the Gulf Coast has moved its way out. It's moved out into the Atlantic Ocean. It's going to dissipate out there. One thing we are keeping an eye on, though, up in Minnesota, low pressure along with this Clipper system, it's going to move its way into the Wabash and Ohio valleys. It's going to bring us a chance for some snow later on in the week. But as we take a look at our forecast for tonight, we can see mostly cloudy skies, low of 24 degrees. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy, high of 35 degrees. And tomorrow night, partly cloudy, low of 21 degrees. The extended forecast for Thursday, 38 degrees the high, 30 the low, partly cloudy skies. For Friday, 37 degrees is the high, 24 the low. Chance for some snow, mostly flurries though, about a 30% chance, not much accumulation expected. And for Saturday, 32 degrees is the high, 21 the low. and chance for some flurries there, not much accumulation expected. And Kristen, that's a look at your weather.
Thank you, Michael. Newscenter 22. Still to come, the VU Lady Blazers were a winner in the college basketball action last night. Amy Reif will have the details coming up in sports.
Tuesday on Frontline. These women have been torn from their lives, taken from their families, and sold into slavery. They are victims of a multi-billion-dollar international business that traffics an estimated 500,000 women a year. Frontline goes undercover to tell the tragic story of the sex trade. Tuesday at 9, only on PBS.
Blazers blitz Lady Bearcats. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Amy Reif. The Vincennes University Lady Blazers held the McKendree College junior varsity team scoreless for nearly 12 minutes in the second half and went on to post a 79-46 victory last night in the PE complex. 5 VU players scored in double figures, led by Ebony Jenkins' game-high 19 points and Anna Georgetscu with 17. The Blazer co-eds are down to only 6 players. VU coach Harry Meeks says forward Leanne Klusner suffered a broken hand in the Sauk Valley game last week and will most likely miss the rest of the season. The Lady Blazers have another home game on tap Thursday night against Southwestern Illinois. The game will be televised live on TV 22 with tip-off set for 7 o'clock. The girls' high school basketball tournament gets underway tonight with sectional sniping around the state. At North Knox, 5th-ranked Mitchell and Linton face off in the sectional opener at 6 o'clock, followed by North and South Knox meeting in the nightcap. The Lady Warriors own a 17-point win over the Spartans during the regular season. South Knox will have some momentum going into the tournament, having upset Vincennes Lincoln and beating Tecumseh to end the regular season. Meanwhile, North Knox wrapped up its 5th straight Blue Chip Conference title with the win over Lagoti last week. Tonight's winners will face off in the semifinals Friday night. Eastern Green plays Paoli in the other semifinal matchup. At Class A sectional at Bar Reeve, Vincennes Reveille meets Shoals for the second time this season. The Lady Patriots carry a 4-game losing streak into the tournament, but do own a regular season victory over the Jug Rocks. Washington Catholic plays North Davies in the nightcap. Vincennes Lincoln competes at the Class A3 Princeton sectional. The Alices drew a first-round bye and played Jasper Friday night. The nation's longest home-winning streak in college basketball is still alive, barely. 5th-ranked Gonzaga won its 35th straight home game, but the Bulldogs needed a second-half rally to do it. The Bulldogs rallied from a 33-30 halftime deficit to beat St. Mary's 62-61 in West Coast Conference action. Sean Malone's free throw with 0.3 of a second won it. Adam Morrison, the nation's leading Division I scorer, was in foul trouble most of the night, but still scored 20 points for Gonzaga. The only other top 25 game, 6th-ranked Texas posted a school record 7 straight 20-win season, beating Texas Tech on the road 65-44. P.J. Tucker scored 18 points and grabbed a career-high 17 boards for the Longhorns. LaMarcus Aldridge added 17 points and 11 rebounds. Texas is 20-3 and 8-1 in the Big 12. Coach Bob Knight's Red Raiders fall 12-11 overall and 4-5 in the Big 12. Kevin Garnett blocked Sean Marion's short jumper at the buzzer to preserve Minnesota Timberwolves' 103-101 victory over Phoenix. The Suns complained that it was goaltending to no avail. Garnett scored Minnesota's last 5 points to finish with 19. Minnesota shot 57% from the field. Yao Ming's 27 points and 13 rebounds powered Houston past Philadelphia 87-81. The Rockets held the 76ers without a field goal for more than 15 minutes in the second half for their 4th straight win. Philadelphia made 18 free throws during that stretch that remarkably allowed them to hang on. The Sixers missed 14 straight shots in the quarter before Allen Iverson finally scored on a 3-point play. Iverson scored 32 points and went 20 for 24 from the line for the Sixers. Indiana Pacers forward Austin Crozier will miss at least 3 more games because of a second concussion in a month. His most recent concussion occurred January 31st when he collided with Washington's Antoine Jamison. Pacers coach Rick Carlisle says that Crozier will be re-examined next week. Antonio Davis has reluctantly reported to the Toronto Raptors today, saying he needed 4 days to clear his head. The Raptors had been waiting on Davis since acquiring the forward in a deal that sent Jalen Rose, a first-round draft pick, and cash to the New York Knicks. There had been speculations that Davis would retire, demand a trade, or ask the Raptors to buy out the rest of his contract. Mike Piazza is back on the West Coast, where he began his career with the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1992. At a news conference yesterday to introduce the newest member of the San Diego Padres, the All-Star catcher also received uniform number 33. The Padres retired Hall of Famer Dave Winfield's number 31, which Piazza had worn since breaking into the major leagues. The Padres signed last week the 37-year-old slugger to a $2 million one-year contract to be their starting catcher. 2 players from each team will be tested for banned drugs after each game of the World Baseball Classic. The International Baseball Federation also says 80 players will be tested at random before the tournament, which gets underway March 3rd. Testing will be done under World Anti-Doping Agency rules, which cover more substances than the drug testing agreement between Major League Baseball and the union. Finally, in sports, the streets of Pittsburgh were lined with Steelers fans today for a parade honoring the Super Bowl champs. Retiring running back Jerome Bettis clutched the Vince Lombardi trophy while sitting in a convertible during the 1-mile ride. The Steelers earned the 5th Super Bowl title by downing the Seattle Seahawks 21-10 Sunday in Detroit. And Kristen, that's a look at sports.
Thanks, Amy. Still to come on Newscenter 22, a man who has posed as a dead body on his website in hopes of landing a movie role has achieved his goal. Stay with us.
Tune into WVUT this Tuesday night. At 8, watch Nova's The Perfect Corpse. 2 murder cases that date to the Iron Age are investigated upon the discovery of 2 well-preserved bodies in Irish peat bogs. Frontline Sex Slaves is a disturbing episode focusing on trafficking of women for prostitution in Moldova, Ukraine, and Turkey. Stay tuned for Independent Lens at 10, Tuesday night on WVUT.
You may have heard about the dead body guy, the Columbus, Ohio man whose ambition was to play a corpse in a real movie. Well, the dead body guy's death wish has finally come true. Jeannie Mose followed up on the story.
When it comes to dying, Chuck Lamb knows how to live. Laughing his way out of a body bag, playing a dead guy on a real live movie set to acclaim from his fellow actors.
It's funny when you say a dead guy's got a future, right?
Hey guys. The dead body guy first gained fame thanks to his website, where he posed dead in a bid to get a bit part in a movie. He figured the easiest way for a non-actor to get an acting job was to play dead.
Ready?
The publicity paid off, and the dead body guy was offered a role in Stiffs, a film about a funeral home starring Danny Aiello. The film's being shot in Boston, where Chuck got his own trailer.
Nice!
Labeled with his name.
Wait a minute, let me get my dead on. All right, I'm ready.
The only thing better than Chuck's death pose is his resurrection.
Now that's acting, guys. Huh?
First order of business, wardrobe. Chuck was to play a working-class stiff, so he needed stains.
I was going to take this
Brandy,
home.
well, you can take it home. It washes
It's
out.
nasty now.
Next stop, makeup. They have special makeup for corpses.
It's literally called a death wheel.
Chuck considers his natural pastiness a plus.
You've never seen a tan dead body.
Then came rehearsal.
Shoes on, shoes off.
Real actors like John Polito offered advice.
If you lose a few pounds because I have to carry you. Just saying. Okay, up. You know what?
You did that on purpose.
This body's talking.
Actually, any carrying would involve a body bag double. Lucky for Chuck.
Yeah, I think we could guess.
Everywhere he went, Chuck flashed.
Dead body guy trading cards.
10 poses to a pack. Admittedly, Chuck was starstruck. But the other actors were nowhere to be seen when it was time to shoot Chuck's scene, a close-up.
I'm ready.
So, be dead, please. Ready, and action. Roll camera.
Nailed it. It was wonderful. Oh my God, I got goosebumps. Don't forget, they're going to give me a body bag, so I want all you guys to sign it, please. Did everybody sign my dead body bag? Hey, Danny, would you sign my body bag?
So maybe Danny Aiello wouldn't sign, nevertheless.
Believe it or not, it's going up in my wall in my poker room.
Chuck carried his body bag back to Columbus, Ohio as if it were a garment bag. The dead body guy even wiped his feet before getting in. Jeannie Mose, CNN.
And that's all for this evening. For Amy Reef and Michael Nice, I'm Kristen Miller. Good night.
This is WVUT Vincennes.